Rutgers back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yeah!
Center back Jacob Glesnes is going. Yes! Oh my God! What a goal!
And that will do it. One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union, and they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And again, I want to thank everyone who joined on Twitter Spaces on Friday night as we discussed Club America versus the Philadelphia Union, Leg 1 of the CCL. Look for us to go live again on September 16th to discuss the second leg. But joining me today to discuss tomorrow's Philadelphia Union versus NYCFC game is a guy who spent 14 seasons coaching the Rutgers women's team, which saw the Scarlet Knights enter the NCAA tournament 7 times, including 2 Sweet 16 appearances. You might have heard him on the Big Ten Network calling women's and men's soccer games. Maybe you've heard him on Sirius XM FC's The Coaching Academy, or maybe you've heard him on the podcast Soccer in the City and On Frame. But most importantly, he is the lead voice of NYCFC on NYCFC Network, Mr. Glenn Crooks. How are you doing today, Glenn?
Cool intro. I think you covered everything, but you didn't talk about my Friday golf game. So outside of that, you got just about everything. And was that Dave Leno on the call of that intro?
Yeah,
Dave and I did a game together at Rutgers on the Big Ten Network somewhere along the line. So that's where I first met him. But happy to be on with you. Yeah, I always look forward to these matches, and the way this Eastern Conference and Western Conference thing has worked out this year. I mean, it's really, and Jim Curtin addressed it today at his media presser. You know, it's just the same teams in the conference are just banging heads all season. So I think it's made for a more interesting table. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's weird. Look, we play you guys one more time, I believe, this season. We play New England last season, I think 6 or 7 times. We'll play them again this season. So it's like, yeah, we're starting to see a lot of teams just all the times. And I think our last Western Conference games against Minnesota, and then that's it for the West Coast teams. So Jim Curtin was right. Just everybody's just beating up on each other. And you can tell that by just looking at the table in the Eastern Conference, just everything's so tight. And we'll get to the Eastern Conference later on in the podcast and just talk about where I think New York City are in terms of being the best team, where I have them ranked. I might surprise some people where I have them ranked. But before we even get to that, there was some news yesterday on Monday. One of your former players, Glenn, Carli Lloyd, she's set to retire from international soccer after her last 4 games in September and October for the national team. She's set to retire from club soccer at the end of the NWSL season. 128 international goals, 4th most for the women's national team, 2nd all-time in international caps with 312, 2 World Cups in 2015 and 19, 2 Olympic medals. Gold medals, 2 FIFA Women's Player of the Year honors. And while she was a player for you at Rutgers, Glenn, I am sure you remember this fondly, from 2001 to 2004, she led Rutgers in points with 117 goals, 50, and she led the team in shots. But what was it like to coach a player like Carli Lloyd?
Well, I think the most amazing thing about Carli, all those goals, she's the all-time leading goal scorer still at Rutgers. And where she ranks with the U.S. women's national team and internationally with goals scored over 100. I don't know the exact figure, but she's done a majority of that on the U.S. women's side, and all of it with us out of the midfield. I've always called her the Frank Lampard of women's soccer, or Frank Lampard was the Carli Lloyd of men's soccer, whichever way you want to put it. So that's, I talked to Joanna Lohman today for my, and I appreciate you mentioning the Sirius XM FC show, The Coaching Academy. She's written a new book, Joanna, and I didn't even realize that she and Carli are very close. I knew that they had played together, but they played at regional camp together years ago, like 19, I don't even know what 19, but the fondness that she has for Carli and how it all came about. It was Carli looking up to Joanna early on, and then it kind of reversed along the way. It's a wonderful story. And at 39, look, there's only one person, Christine Lilly, in the history of soccer, right? Men or women, that has more caps than Carli, and it's Christine Lilly. It's the number is like, I don't know, 35 or 40. I thought that she might, knowing Carli, I thought she might want to go for that and just keep plowing along. But I know Brian quite well, her husband. I know him well because they were going out in high school. They were going out when she was at Rutgers. And I think this might be a bit of a tribute to her husband that, well, I'm just going to finish it off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just what a career. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. I mean, she's a national icon in just not just women's sports, but I'd say in soccer, just all in America. I mean, players would kill to have the career that Carli Lloyd had, and even half of that career that she's had. So I gave the stats: two FIFA Women's Player of the Year awards, 2 gold medals, 2 FIFA World Cups. I mean, man,
and that was a
amazing
moment when she, I saw a picture. Maybe she sent it. I don't know. Somebody sent it to me with her and Lionel Messi on stage together. The FIFA Men's Player of the Year and the FIFA Women's Player of the Year, and they were all dressed up, and it was like, oh my gosh, she's right next to Messi. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. And of course, a hat trick in the World Cup final in 2015. That was cool as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we could spend a whole podcast talking about Carli Lloyd, I'm sure. So, but let's go ahead and talk about, like I said, you're the lead commentator for NYCFC on NYCFC Network. New York City, they took on Inter Miami this past Saturday with a 2-0 victory over Inter Miami. New York City, they are on a 6-game unbeaten run where they've scored 14 goals and have only conceded 3 goals. And what's so impressive about that is that they've done all of that without a full-strength team, where you guys were missing players on international duty, you were missing players due to injuries. So it's just a really, really, really impressive stretch for NYCFC right here. And then you look at the game where Tati Castellanos scored 2 goals against Miami. Could have had 5 goals in that game. Look, he was one-on-one with the goalkeeper. He headed it straight at Marsman, the goalkeeper for Inter Miami. He also tried to chip the goalkeeper at one point. I mean, Tati Castellanos, great game. Maybe his best game of the season so far for New York City.
Well, his expected goals for the season is just under 15, and he's got 8. So he's had a number of games where, you go, oh, my goodness. He should have finished that. He should have finished this. But at the end of the day, the guy's got 8 goals to lead the team. And I think that puts him back in the top 10, not back, but for the first time this year in the top 10 of goal scorers. Well, he had scored in each of his first 4 matches. And he was the MLS Player of the Month last October, November. It was a combined Player of the Month award because he was scoring so frequently and in big moments. So it looked like, all right, he's going to be a striker, because a striker scores goals. And all of a sudden he went into a slump where he didn't score for 9 games. And now it seems like he's gotten out of that. It's happening a little bit more frequently. So good for Tati because, I've talked to Ronnie. I talked to Ronnie Dyla 20 minutes before every game. And he, we've talked a lot about Tati and his lack of finishing. And he just continued to iterate that, he has such value to the team, even when he is not scoring. He's 3rd in MLS going into the Inter Miami game. He was tied for 3rd at MLS with 6 assists. So he's become a more complete player. He's become a player who was a winger, came in as a striker and had to learn how to play with his back to goal. He's a great target now, flick-ons. He can hold the ball better. And, so he is, by the end of the year, I'm really interested to see where he places among the elite forwards in the league because, he could be on his way. Hey, I wanted to mention one more Carli thing, because and your listeners may find this interesting and they may say, shut up, Glenn. But there is an association between Carli and New York City FC because City Football Group, Manchester City Women, and not only that, Nick Cushing, because Carli played 1 year for Manchester City Women. Her coach was Nick Cushing. Nick Cushing is now the top assistant to Ronnie Dyla for New York City FC. So I just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, that's awesome how you can connect the dots. And it shows just how small the world really is when you can just put those dots together.
And just understand that everything comes back to New Jersey, where I live and where I've coached all my years, right? Carli's a Jersey girl. Delran, New Jersey. Anything, you say something about the sport, Todd, and I'll bring it back to New Jersey.
There we go.
But anyway, wherever you want to go with this now.
Absolutely. So, I mean, our listeners, we're okay with South Jersey, but then you go any place more north than that, then it's when Philadelphia fans don't want to talk about Jersey. So South Jersey, yeah, it's okay because it's 20 minutes away from Philadelphia. Anything farther than...
Yeah, they're all Philly. Yeah, it's crazy down there because we're, I grew up a Yankee fan, a Jet fan, and, Knicks and Rangers, and, oh, gosh, it's tough to deal with. I almost think of South Jersey as not really part of our state, but It is.
Absolutely.
I just say that kiddingly.
Absolutely. I'm sure, people down in South Jersey probably say the same thing. Like,
I'm sure they
Yankees,
do. Yeah. There's a little battle there. Yep.
Absolutely. I got to love it. But just like that midfield battle for New York City, I mean, you look at Gregory for Inter Miami, they brought in Matuidi. You guys absolutely dominated midfield play, I thought, against Inter Miami. Just your overall thoughts from this game, how you guys played against Inter Miami.
Well, my color analyst, Matty Lawrence, who played a high level of soccer over in England for Millwall, Crystal Palace, Fulham as a central defender. And I agreed with him. But he was very hard on Phil Neville because as you watch that game, and anyone listening that watched that game, if you could tell me what Inter Miami was trying to do on the attack, please send me a note. And I think most of the notes I get will have like 2 words, don't know. And I don't know. Maybe is Phil Neville over his head as a manager? I don't know. Miami this year has been. And they've got one of my favorite players of all time, Gonzalo Higuain, up top. I love that guy. He was disinterested. He wanted no part of. After an hour had gone by, he wanted no part of the game. And partly it's the way New York City defended him as a unit. Really didn't give him any space. He didn't get his normal activity in the box area. And Blaise Matuidi, a World Cup winner, and these guys aren't like, they're 33 and 34, but they're not completely over the hill. They can still play the game. I look at Miami and who they put out on the field. I saw the starting lineup. Kieran Gibbs. I mean, come on, man. Gonzalez Perez, 2-time MLS Defender of the Year. Figal is very good. Leerdam. I like that guy. Marsman in goal, he's a veteran of overseas, the Eredivisie. But I think Phil Neville has done a poor job with this group. I think that's the conclusion because they were terrible. They were awful. And New York City was very good and had complete control of the match. I mean, it could have been a higher score line. But we did this thing. I think it was on Soccer in the City, our New York City podcast. And I'm pretty sure we did this there. But we were talking about teams at MLS you would not pay to see. And Miami is clearly one of them. Oh, and it's hard for me to say that because I love Higuain. But, my God, they are awful. Awful.
Look, being a Philadelphia Union fan, somebody that covers the team, I can't say much because we lost to them in Chester and then we drew against them when we played down in Miami, which is so baffling when, like you said, I mean, it seemed like
it's
it
from
was just
game
you guys
to game,
out there.
too. Well, they had beaten Nashville in their previous game. It was a home match, 2-1, and Nashville doesn't give up anything. No. You look at their defensive record; they're really difficult to score on. So, but I've seen 5 or 6 matches, and before, remember when they lost to New England 5-0 at home, that was their 6th consecutive defeat. But it was interesting. We had Franco Panizo on our pregame. He covers Inter Miami. He said Phil Neville is never in trouble. And that's because he and Beckham are buddies. Yeah. They're business partners. They own a team together. Every aspect of that Miami situation, I just don't like. I like Chris Henderson, who's kind of trying to bring in the right players.
They should have hired in the first place, but...
Yeah. But anyway, I know this is not the Miami podcast.
Look, I mean, you're right. I mean... They had so high hopes. Like, it made so much sense to put the team down in Miami, where you look at the Latino populations, they live and breathe soccer down there, and to see their soccer club be anything but a soccer club, it's ridiculous what's going down. And not even Miami, down in Fort Lauderdale. So for anybody that might be a Miami fan, I mean, I feel bad for you guys because you guys have all the star players on your team. You have David Beckham and just the results aren't clicking on the field. But the last time the Union and New York City played each other in Subaru Park at the beginning of the season, New York City came in and won that game 2-0, which saw Jose Martinez earn a red card for a slapper on Tati Castellanos. Tati scored a goal in the game because Jacob Glesnes had a missed chest back to Andre Blake, if people can remember that far back, and then Tati just bounced on the ball and makes the goal. The score be 2-0. Madonna, he opened up the scoring for New York City after Matt Real failed to track his run into the box. And New York City, I mean, they just created chance after chance after chance in that game. And There was one point in that game where we got that red card early on. I think it was like the 14th, 15th minute or whatever. So we were playing majority of the game man down. And I was like, okay, maybe we can hit you guys on the counterattack. We only got like 2 chances that game. I mean, you guys are so well disciplined, and I'm sure I'll bring that up a little bit later on. Defensively, you guys have given up the least amount of goals in the Eastern Conference with 18, I believe you guys have only given up this season, which is third fewest in MLS. You guys, from that's not the moment for me that I think that New York City, I don't want to get into it yet. New York City, for me, I think the big moment that I was like, okay, yeah, these guys are serious is when you guys beat Orlando City 5-0 down in Orlando, I believe it was. You guys didn't have Sean Johnson or James Sands because they were away on the international duty. But I was like, yeah, these guys are a serious club.
And then follow that up with a 4-1 win over Columbus, but that's not looking as impressive now the way Columbus is going, but they're, and Caleb Porter is going crazy. They've got this beautiful new stadium and they're packing it and they're just not getting any results. So that Martinez red card, 16th minute. And if you go back and look at the statistics, so New York, to play down a man for that long is tough. But I will say the New York City played well before the red card. And then remember Medina scored 5 minutes in and and then Tati scored a little bit later in the second half, but possession was 67 in favor of New York City. Shots 23-4, 7-0 on target. Not one shot on target for Philadelphia. So no, it was not a good night for the Union. Even when you're down to 10 players, you tend to at least get a counter or something where you can get a take on frame. But that didn't happen. But I think so many things have changed. I think the biggest thing that's changed. There's a dramatic difference in the New York City bench now. And, with the addition of Santiago Rodriguez in the midfield or up front, he can play both. He's going to be, I think he's going to be the heir apparent to Maxi Morales, the playmaker. And then Thiago, the Brazilian, who has pace out the wazoo. And no fullback in MLS that he's encountered up to this point has been able to keep up with him. And then another one, a Brazilian, Tylus Magno. He hasn't shown much yet because he came in a little injured, tried to play him. Then they shut him down for almost a month. And he just came back for the first time against Inter Miami. He played the latter portion of the match. And he looked good. He was moving well, much better than before the break. So they've got all these weapons. So you go to the bench, and it's like on the bench it could be Tajiri Shradi, Thiago and Tylus Magno. I mean, you could just replace your front three if you want.
Yeah.
So with quality, and so they really. But you mentioned the defending, and Todd, that's all about what Ronnie Dyler said for the outset is to set a foundation of hard work and discipline, and that starts on the defensive side, and then work hard defensively, be organized, make that your foundation, and then go have fun on the attacking side. They have patterns of play. When you watch New York City play, you can figure out what they're doing, unlike Inter Miami.
And this is very true. I'm glad you brought up Thiago. I'll bring him up a little bit later. But your call when you guys hit DC United on the counterattack when Thiago just outran everybody, that was a hell of a call that you had, Glenn.
Well, thanks. It was a magic moment. Because you just watched it develop, and there he goes. It was 90-yard run. How about 90 yards the guy ran with the ball, and then had the composure to pull a Cruyff. I forget who the defender was. The kid from Maryland.
Pines.
Yeah. So he Cruyffed Pines and then just calmly just slotted it to the back post on the deck with the left foot, So it was really down a goal and then come back and score too late and the game winner. And it was. I have never seen a New York City club, no team since 2015. We've been doing it since the outset, since the expansion season. I've never seen them celebrate like that. It was for New York City a magic moment.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the kind of counterattack that teams dream of. And to see Thiago work defensively and then just run it all the way from the defensive zone all the way to the attacking zone to still have the composure, like you said. I mean, that's a long way to run. And he was able to finish the ball off, and you guys walk away with 3 points. But look, the Union, they haven't won against NYCFC at home since 2018. in which the Union won that game 2-0 thanks to goals from Corey Burke and Elsinio. New York City, they are 4 wins, 3 losses, and 7 matches played at Subaru Park. And my listeners might say, well, why are you sounding so negative? And look, I'm not. I'm just stating the facts that the Union struggle against New York City at home. And in general, I believe New York City have 9 wins all time against the Union. And in my opinion, I was going to bring this up earlier, and now I'll bring it up now. I think New York City are the best team in the Eastern Conference. And I know Jim Curtin would disagree with me because he believes New England are the best team. And I know New England are on a 3-game unbeaten run without Carlos Heel. But the 2 wins were against the Union, who played the Kings in that match, and against Toronto, who haven't played good at all this season ever since they lost Greg Vanney in the offseason.
How about the fewest points in MLS? The 27th ranked team out of 27, Toronto FC. Our good friend Javier Perez is trying to get it done. He went unbeaten. His first 6 matches that he coached, I think. I think that's right. Yeah. And but that's a tough situation to take a team at that point. And I'm glad they stripped the interim tag so he could see if he could figure it out the rest of the way. And I think that's the best way to go. In Atlanta, I think Atlanta is one of the more intriguing teams to look at now, where they're starting. Joseph Martinez is back. They're only they're 5 points out of a playoff berth, so that's obviously not insurmountable. And with a new coach, with an interim coach who the players love, and he'll still stay on board. That's pretty interesting there. But yeah, it's hard to say that New York City is better than New England when you're 12 points behind in the standings. Now, New York City has 2 games in hand there, and to keep winning without Carlos Heel is the best player in MLS.
He is.
At the time of his injury, he was. And so you take in my opinion, you take the best player in MLS, he's sidelined, and you continue to win. I think you gotta give it to New England, Todd. Sorry, man. And I'm doing the games for New York City, but I'll go for maybe second best.
My reasoning is because, one, you guys are winning games without your number 1 striker in Erber. He's proven that he's 15 goals a season striker by doing so in 2019. Struggled with injuries last season, so you can't really go off of 2020 when he missed more than half the season because of his ACL injury. Like we said earlier, you guys have the best defense in the Eastern Conference. You guys have kept 7 clean sheets so far this season. Giving up the fewest, like I said, in the East with 18, and that's good for 3rd fewest in all of MLS, like I also mentioned. And whether it's James Sands or Maxime Chanot or Alexander
Collins,
Collins,
yeah. He's rotating those 3 right now at center back. It looks like, and he said he would do that because of all these games being played and eliminated in the Leagues Cup by Pumas. So that's going to keep the schedule a little less congested because those games. Philadelphia's feeling it now with CONCACAF Champions League. It's a tough road, man. It's the MLS schedule, since it's not scheduled like the rest of the world, makes it a little difficult.
Yep, it is, absolutely. And just the transition from the defense to the midfield, absolutely flawless. And then, like you mentioned, Thiago and Magno, they haven't got it going yet, but 2 very, very promising Brazilians. So those are my reasonings. But if you want to say the number 2, then I'll say number 2 with you. We can give New England the number 1 title for now, but you guys played New England.
New York City is more exciting to watch, maybe. I would say that.
That might be it.
And,
that might be it.
And I'm looking forward to the triple-edged Brazilian sword when Eber gets back from the ACL and you see Eber, Tylus Magno, and Thiago all up top together. That's got to happen. Ronnie's just got to do it just for the fun of it, but it'll also be a pretty good group. But Eber still is not training with contact. He's waiting for doctor's clearance. It's interesting how they don't let guys come back until their surgical leg is within 5 or 6% of the strength of the non-surgical leg. It's very scientific. Right now, he's at about 10% difference. So when he gets that down to about 5 or 6, he'll start training, and then I don't see them putting him out there for 2 or 3 weeks after he gets. So I don't know when we're going to see Eber. It's been a long time. September 23rd was when he tore the knee against Toronto in September 23rd, 2020.
So almost a year coming up. But like you said earlier, Tati seems to be finding his feet with 8 goals for New York City. So just adding Eber is just another plus for that team that is so much depth on the team. But look, I've been saying on the podcast the last couple weeks, 5 games from the Chicago Fire to the game against the Montreal Impact. The Union would need to get 11 out of 15 points to stay in the top of the Eastern Conference, top 3 of the Eastern Conference. That means that they would have to get a draw against New England and New York City. Well, I'm not sure the Union have enough this game to even get a draw against New York City. My 3 keys to this game are, 1, limit New York City's touches in the penalty area. When I looked this up, I was surprised that New York City lead all MLS team in touches in the penalty area with 569. Of course, Tati Castellanos leads all MLS players with touches in the penalty area with 143. This guy's just constantly moving, loves getting the ball to his feet in the penalty area. He has 3 goals to assist in 5 games against the Union. I think number 2, the Union, they've got to play long balls over the top for their strikers to get any chance. Like we said earlier, just defensively, they are so good in New York City. Midfield, they look phenomenal against Inter Miami. Even though we talked, it's Inter Miami. Do with that as you will. But look, Sergio Santos uses pace. Will Davo make an appearance? The Brazilian they signed on loan from Corinthians. Apparently he has pace, so I just want to see the Union have these guys chase the balls down in the flank and see what they can do with it. 3, got to be strong defensively in the second half. 21 of New York City's 34 goals this season have come in the second half of the season, with 8 of them coming in the last 15 minutes of this match. All time, New York City have scored 22 goals against the Union in 13 MLS games, and out of those 22 goals, 6 of them have come in the last 15 minutes of the game. So
all right, I'm taking all. You're helping me make my chart. Thank you, Todd. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I upload this podcast, just go ahead and listen to about the 49th minute, and you can get all those. You can get all those keys.
No, and it's well, and look, New York City is. They're in a good way. And I think where they've been a little bit under the radar because they have not finished with the sort of regularity that you would expect from the chances that they've created. They've been the top chance creator in the league, 1 or 2, like the whole year. And you go back to Castellanos, his expected goals is 15. He scored 8. So you get a clear picture. He's just one example. You get a clear picture of how, how it could have easily gone in a couple of different directions here. But if they start connecting a little bit more frequently and more people contribute, like a Thiago, Tyler Magno gets in, could Maxi Morales do a little bit more in the goal scoring department, which he has shown in the past? And then you add in Ismael Tajiri-Shradi, who's got 7 goals. Jesus Medina was 7. They're just behind Tati Castellanos. But everyone has streaked and then slumped, and if they can get it where all these players are consistently putting it in the back of the net, I mean, you're going to see some 4-0, 4-1, 5-2 score lines without being shocked, because that's a lot of the games. That's what it's looked like, but it's not been there at the end.
My prediction for this game, before I give a score, Jim Curtin mentioned in his press conference that the most players he's had this season trained today in training, and that everybody is available for selection tomorrow.
Beautiful.
2, he also mentioned that new signing Jesus Bueno, who they signed out in Venezuela, still can't get his visa worked out, so he's still not in Philadelphia. And the last point I want to bring up to remind Union fans, Olivier Bizo, he's suspended for this game due to yellow card accumulation. And by the way, before we hopped on here...
Hey, is this what you're going to say?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just saw it before we came on.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Find a contract extension.
Exactly, the team just
I'm sorry, I'm doing your job. Right.
You're good. I'm glad you paid attention just like me. So I was like, this is great news to get before you hop on, Glenn, that the team said that he just signed a new multi-year contract extension. So I guess that's pretty good. You lose your tooth against Club America, and now you sign a new contract extension. So I guess it's
that was a wild piece of slow motion video. I'll tell you what.
It was.
Watching his tooth fly out of his mouth. That's a tough dude, man. He hung in there for, as long as he could, but that's a tough dude. No question. And he's a good player. I think of that as a huge signing. I had a discussion with a coach recently, and we've both been around for a while, and we remember the days when fullbacks, stayed home. Their job was to defend. I mean, that's a while back now, but it hasn't been that long that fullbacks have been playmakers, and so you've got a guy, and then Wagner is, he's an all-star, and he can really get some things done. So you got a guy on either flank that could really create, and that's that's huge for them. And for New York City fans. Happy that he'll be celebrating his new contract up in the suites, having a little buffet instead of playing in the game.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think that's another thing, too, for a key for New York City is Elvis Powell's coming off a hamstring injury. I don't know why Club America didn't attack down the right side where he could hardly run. So I think New York City is definitely going to get going at the right side as Elvis Powell comes in for Olivier Mbazo. So for all Union fans, watch out for that matchup there for Elvis Powell. He could get dusted in this game. But Andre Blake obviously in goal, Powell, Elliot Glesnes, Wagner, Brujo, Bedoya, Flock, and Gazdag in your 4 midfield diamond. And then I think Corey Burkitt's is starting instead of Sergio Santos with Kasper Schebelka next to him. But I don't know. We have 4 strikers to choose from, so whatever Jim's feeling. The reason I say Corey Burke is because he has 3 career goals in all competitions against New York City. So
is that the way you play it if you're the coach? The guy who's scored more frequently against New York City, you put him in?
That's what I would do. Jim Curtin says he doesn't go off of form. He goes off of analytics. So we'll see if Jim Curtin's going to play the analytics this game. But
has Curtin said that?
Yeah, he said that a few weeks ago in a press conference that he doesn't go off of form. He goes off for analytics. So,
wow. Okay. He's gonna be on my show pretty soon, the Coaching Academy. So I'll make sure that Todd, and that you can let everybody know. And for those who subscribe to Sirius, be able to catch it because he's I think he's one of the great stories in MLS. Local guy, the local boy makes good, right? And still coaching his team. I mean, gee whiz, he's hung in there. New general manager tells him to switch out of the 4-2-3-1 to a 4-4-2 diamond, and he figures that out. And they're a tough team to break down, a tough team to beat. And so I love Jim Curtin.
Yeah, I'm glad you're getting him on the show. So I'll have to find somebody that has a Sirius subscription and catch that. So I love anytime that Jim Curtin's on different podcasts or finally Philadelphia radio is giving him coverage. I live in Maryland, so I never get to hear.
I'm going to ask about this form thing. I'm going to get some detail on that. Because
definitely.
That's pretty interesting to me because that's what we talk about. Coaching, education, player development. That's what it'll all be about. So I don't have it scheduled yet, but they tell me it's going to happen. So I'm just awaiting.
Yeah. It's awesome. Can't wait for that, Glenn. But all in all, I don't think the formation, the players matter because I think New York City is going to win this game. Like you said earlier, 6-game unbeaten run for New York City. I would love to say a draw, but I don't think it's going to happen this game.
And you talk about, you made me think when you talked about Philadelphia struggling at home against New York City FC. It harkens back to, I don't know if you were at this game, but David Villa chipping Andre Blake from 56 yards. And that was one of the, those kind of goals, they're just classic. You brought up Carli Lloyd at the beginning, and she had one of those in a World Cup final. So that's even a little bit more impressive, I suppose. But I still have that vision of Andre Blake backpedaling and scrambling, and oh my goodness,
nothing you can do. It's in the back of the net. So Tati almost pulled it off against Inter Miami. So I don't know. Will somebody else get a chance this week? Let's hope not for the Union standpoint. But New York City do have players that can pull it off. But Glenn, it's been a blast having you on the podcast. And for anybody that wants to give you a follow, where can they find all of your stuff on social media?
Well, I do mostly Twitter, so it's at Glenn Crooks, and that's probably sufficient. You want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'll say hi. But follow me on Twitter. I put up as much stuff. I put a lot of New York City stuff up, but all kinds of soccer stuff. And sometimes some family stuff. And a little Bob Marley. See my Bob Marley in the back?
I did see that.
Yeah. That's a jigsaw puzzle.
It is. I was trying to figure that out, what that was. Yeah. I was like, is that a picture? That's awesome.
It's actually a picture. It's a photo from, and then it's cropped, but I've seen the original photo. He was in New York City. I don't know if it was Central Park. I'm not sure where it was. Just playing pickup. And interesting thing, Robin Frazier, the Colorado Rapids coach, I spoke to him once, and he talked about playing with, when he was a teen, he lived in Miami, and he played with Bob Marley, like on a team. He went to training and would play with him. And he said he was a really good footballer. And, it was a big part of his life. But, he's my spiritual leader. He's over my right shoulder here for all my interviews and my joining you on your podcast. So, Todd, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, Glenn. And for anybody that's listening, if you're still not following the podcast on social media, follow @FreeKickPod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Check out the website, The Free Kick, and wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. But We'll see if I am wrong about my 2-1 prediction. Hopefully I am, but I'm not feeling like that's going to be the case. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.